should be good to go.
Okay, fantastic. Okay.
Just because, and so the problem is me, Deborah, I can't see what you're broadcasting, so just tell me as we're flipping slides, we'll just have to talk to each other.
Okay, no problem. Okay, everybody, so sorry about that. We're going to start now and move full steam ahead. Welcome to the webinar. I'm Deborah Korn from Print Media Center. Print Media Center provides information and resources to the print and integrated marketing community with some of these things that you can see on this slide. Pat is just a list of things Print Media Center does. And if you're interested in creating customized promotions to reach the print and integrated marketing audience, please get in touch with me. Make sure you subscribe to News from the Printiverse, our monthly newsletter. And of course, if you are on Twitter, join us every Wednesday for Print Chat. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, the Print Production Professionals Group, YouTube Print Media Center, and if you are using Twitter, the hashtag is Inkjet. Chad, it is at full screen, so I'm not sure what you want me to do about that. So Pat McGrew is our presenter today, and she does work at HP, but this is not an HP focused content. This is educational content. And Pat, let me turn it over to you now so we could just get right to it.
Alrighty, so
we're on your Who's Pat McGrew slide.
Yeah, we're on the Who's Pat McGrew slide. We'll start there. So thanks for coming, everybody, and we apologize for the technical difficulties. As Deborah mentioned, I am in Switzerland, and one of the things we have learned about doing webinars from around the world, and Chad and I have had this fun for years, it doesn't always work out the way you hope because the hotel internet isn't always what you hope it will be, and that's what we're running into here tonight. So where I am, it's 7 p.m., so wherever you're joining from around the world, thanks for jumping on in. Again, I'm Pat McGrew, and I am a very active Explorer member. That M-EDP after my name has to do with my electronic document professional certification. I'm a master EDP. I'm also a certified marketing professional through DNA, and recently finished the mail design professional certification just for fun. I am the Inkjet evangelist for HP, and as Deborah said, I do work for HP, and HP makes just darn spiffy, fine Inkjet equipment, but this webinar is really not about HP Inkjet. It is about Inkjet and fitness for the kinds of work that print professionals deal with all the time. And if you're looking at the same screen I am, you can see that I've been doing this for a darn long time. I will admit to dyeing my hair. It would be really, really gray otherwise because I've been doing this for a while. I have written a bunch. I've presented a lot. I was honored to receive the 2014 Girls Who Print Girly Award in 2014. So I sort of hang out in this industry a lot. What I specialize in is education, and to the best of my ability, I try to keep it as neutral as I can, because I think that you're going to find that the first steps we want to take here have to do with understanding what Inkjet is all about and why you shouldn't be afraid of it if you're a print buyer or a brand owner, and what you can really expect to be able to accomplish with it. So Deborah, if we can run to the slide that says Inkjet printing, what and why?
We are there.
Okay, those cute little droplets over on the right will give you an idea of what we're talking about. Now, if you're a print professional and you've been buying print or creating print traditionally for a long time, you're familiar with large offset presses. And the way they work is that we create files, and those files typically get turned into a series of printing plates. Let's kind of take it down to the basics. And those printing plates are designated cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and if you're on a sophisticated press, you might have light cyan, light yellow, light magenta. You might have a gray. You might even have specialized purpose colors that are added to the press. And when you do that, you're building an environment where the ink is squirted into rollers and transferred to the plate, and then the plate transfers the image down to the piece of paper or whatever substrate you're using, and out on the other end, voila, you have print. And it looks fabulous because it's transferring all that lovely ink down to the paper, and it gives you what you want. And it's a wonderful style of printing, but it's a static style of printing. What you do is you create something that gets printed over and over and over again, but it's the same on every copy. And it's brilliant if that's what you need. But we're in the new millennium here, right? We're 14, 15 years into the new millennium, and for an awful lot of the communication that we do these days, the request is to create things that are shorter runs for a variety of reasons, a little bit more segmented, and maybe even customized and personalized. And this is where an inkjet technology really makes a huge amount of sense for this for big communication jobs. The way inkjet works is that instead of transferring ink from a roller to a plate, from a plate to a piece of paper, what you get now is we're actually squirting drops of ink at the paper. And it can happen through a number of different technologies. You can have various forms of what's called continuous inkjet, where the ink basically rains from the ink heads, inkjet print heads, and whatever isn't going to go to the paper gets sucked back in and recollected and reused. Alternatively, you might have a form of drop-on-demand, where you are dropping only the ink you need on the paper. Either style of inkjet can produce absolutely brilliant results. As a rule, what you're going to find is that inkjet printing is very high speed. Now, you may be familiar with inkjet from what's sitting on your desktop at home. It wouldn't be uncommon to turn around and discover that somewhere close to you is somebody's inkjet printer, and maybe you're familiar with those inkjet cartridges that you buy at the office supply. Actually, in my grocery store, you can buy inkjet cartridges. And you print, and you might say, well, gee, those aren't really very fast. But when you take the technology to the industrial level, that technology does get very, very fast. And your print speeds, I've been here in Switzerland this week printing at more than 100 meters a minute. That's over 300 feet per minute. And that feels kind of slow to me because I know of machines that go much, much, much faster. So why do you care about the speed? You care about the speed because that's what gives you productivity. Inkjet provides an opportunity to produce things at very high speed and meet very tight deadlines, very tight service level agreements. It's possible for a customer to come to you in the morning and for you to be producing their job in the afternoon in some situations and actually meeting their tight deadlines and meeting their requirements for high volume. We know of customers who've done this for their customers, and it really does, it provides an amazing number of opportunities in terms of being able to meet the needs of people who buy print, and it makes a pretty reasonable solution for print providers who are looking for ways to offer not only amazing color, but amazing turnaround times. And oh, by the way, amazing turnaround times where every copy is unique, which is also a hallmark of inkjet printing. We call it production class. This style of inkjet is, it's there, it's industrial, it's ready to meet your highest volume needs. If you start looking around you, you may not realize it, but many, many of the things that you get in your mailbox today are already printed on high-speed inkjet presses. If you have kids who are in school, or if you're taking some college courses, You might be amazed to know that an awful lot of education material these days is produced on high-speed inkjet web presses around the world. Companies like Pearson, the big educational content provider, use inkjet presses around the world to realize their requirements. So it can be production class, it's reliable, it's speedy, it does what you need it to do. And by the way, the other thing that you can do is you can have a black-only inkjet press, or you can have a CYMK inkjet press. And, you know, by the time we get to Drupa in 2016, you'll be hearing people talking about inkjet presses that even go beyond the traditional four-color cyan, yellow, magenta, and black, and moving out into those additional color spaces that we know that printers really, really want to do. These are mostly web-fed presses. The webs might be 20 inches, 30 inches, 40 inches wide, 42 inches wide. They might even be wider in some industrial applications. We had a question before we got started. The question was, why aren't there sheet-fed inkjet presses? And the truth is that there are sheet-fed inkjet presses already in the marketplace. If you check around, you'll find them. It has not been the most common approach to high-speed inkjet. There are a lot of reasons for that. The sheet-fed inkjet presses that are in the market today tend to serve a class of customer who are looking for large sheets to be printed. Those machines tend to work by having the inkjet print heads move back and forth over the sheet of paper, and then the sheet is moved on and the next sheet is printed. From an industrial throughput standpoint, that's not very quick. It doesn't give you a lot of options for being really fast. I think, you know, over the next 5, 10 years, we'll certainly see a lot of innovation in the sheet-fed press space in the inkjet category. But today, most of what I'm going to be talking about has to do with the world of high-speed web presses, because frankly, that's what's in the market today. That's what customers are using today, and that's what's producing some pretty amazing print in the marketplace today. So, Deborah, can we go to the next slide?
Yes, but before we do that, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if people can see the control panel that I'm looking at, but Erna asked a question. This is what it says. I'm reading it to you. I would like to ask more about MEMjet. Is that a brand or is that a...
Oh, MEMjet, yes, okay, yes. Is it just asking what is it, and do they just want to know what it is?
Yes, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So MEMjet is a very interesting situation. The developer of MEMjet, the inventor of MEMjet, is out of Australia, and they have a company called Silverbrook out of Australia, and they've licensed their technology. And MEMjet takes a slightly different approach to inkjet. Instead of like a CIJ raining ink, or strictly speaking a true DOD, MEMjet is really a drop-on-demand technology, but it's very, very modular. And their approach to the marketplace was to license their technology to a lot of different printhead makers with the hopes that those printhead makers would then create unique iterations of the MEMjet technology to bring inkjet to a lot more applications. I think I've seen MEMjet more in industrial applications than, strictly speaking, in sort of graphic arts printing or even high-speed book printing or transactional printing. There are certainly implementations that do those things as well, but the vast majority of MEMjet applications I'm aware of are really more associated with the sort of industrial printing. Think of putting barcodes onto packaging where each barcode has to be unique. Think about putting unique markings onto, well, even things like diapers. My favorite one is potato chips. The kinds of things that require some sort of colorant to be squirted at some sort of irregular surface. That's typically where I've seen them jet.
Okay, we have another question from Ellen Minkles, and I'm reading it to you directly. Does the inkjet market go to printing first on a kind of a blanket, and then the image is printed on the paper?
So that's a transfer technology, very similar to an offset press. And no, actually, most of the inkjet technologies you're going to come in contact with today squirt directly on the paper. Now, the one that you might be referring to that you might be aware of, Benny Landa, has been certainly very vocal in the marketplace, and he likes transfer technologies. But when you start looking at the major players who are in market today with real machines producing real inkjet printing, if you look at certainly those of us at HP with our T-Series presses, the folks from Ricoh and Screen with their presses, the Xerox and Pika machines, the Canon OSE, color stream and image stream machines, AGFA, certainly all of these folks are printing directly on the paper.
Okay, Erna, just so you know, everybody on the webinar other than Pat and I are muted, so nobody can speak. As far as why you can't hear the webinar, I'm not sure about that, but no one has done something to make that not function for you. Sorry you're having difficulty. Do you want me to flip, Pat?
Would you do that? Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
And it's a picture of a rocket?
It is a picture of a rocket.
Okay.
And why do we use this? Well, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about inkjet inks because it's a question I hear a lot from people, especially print professionals who've had some experience or even maybe decades of experience using offset press techniques, and they're used to ink in that space. And if you've ever worked with ink and the big web presses or even the big sheet fed presses in the offset world, you know that ink is this sort of, well, it comes in a tin, and you slather it on the press, and it's a whole experience to play with ink, and it has a very interesting smell because that kind of ink has a tremendous amount of solvent. And that kind of ink also can be custom made to hit very specific colors. In fact, if you work with Pantone colors, you may specify those Pantone colors to your press operator, and they actually buy the Pantone color and load it onto the press to make sure you get that color that you want. And that's a very common thing to do. Now, over here in the world I live in with inkjet, for the most part, we don't do that. For the most part, our ink is just a little bit of colorant, just a little bit, and something to move that colorant to the paper. And it can be anything from water to any number of organic type solvents. This ink is different for every vendor you will work with. We all have our proprietary ink formulations, and we all have our proprietary approaches to how we balance the color, and what our reds look like, and our cyans look like, and our yellows look like, and even our blacks look like will vary a little bit manufacturer to manufacturer, and it's something that you should be aware of. This is one of the reasons if you are looking at inkjet, whether you want to buy an inkjet press or you want to find a provider who can do your printing for you on an inkjet press, you need to know what your expectations are, and you need to communicate them to to the people who are selling the press or to the print provider, and you need to test and make sure that they're going to be able to hit the colors that you want. I have huge confidence that just about any color you could ever want to hit, you will be able to hit with an inkjet web press. But I also have equal confidence that it will be a little bit of trial and error the first time around because, again, every one. Every one of these things is just a little bit different. So the analogy we use is the Saturn V moon rocket. And I'm of a certain age, right? I'm 57. I grew up with the space program on TV. And the Saturn V was a big part of me growing up. The way it worked is you had your payload stage, and then you had your carrier stage. And our ink in the high-speed inkjet world works pretty much the same way. Now, you will find that inkjet ink, high-speed inkjet ink, comes in two flavors. There's what we call pigment ink, and then there's what we call dye ink. And in each one of those cases, what we're talking about is the nature of colorants and how they're carried. And there is a general perception that pigment inks give you a much brighter, poppier kind of color, but they cost a little bit more as a rule. And dye-based inks, it's sort of like what it's, you know, if you've ever looked at the difference between painting a wall or painting some concrete and dyeing some concrete, the dyes tend to be a little bit lighter in the way they look and feel. They don't tend to be as vibrant, and of course, for everything I'm saying, I can find an example that breaks the rules. But think of it as dye-based colors typically are a little bit less expensive when you're buying them, and they're just not quite as bright normally as the pigment-based colors are. So this is another one of these things you want to write down and keep in your back pocket as you're investigating inkjet. What is it that you're looking for out of the print that you want to buy or that you want to print? Do you need really vibrant colors that are hitting specific color gamuts? Or are you just looking for some color to give your marketing collateral or your commercial printing a little bit of a flavor? That might color the direction that you want to go. So, Deborah, let's head to the next slide now that we've beaten inks to death.
Well, actually, we have some questions for you.
Okay, we do. Okay.
Yes, and of course, the first one was something that you and I have been talking about. This is from Dana Coe, and she would like to know, does any particular inkjet technology support printing on coated stock without smearing? If yes, what specific technology and even a specific brand? And you and I, we know from the conversations going on in LinkedIn that there is a perception out there that inkjet smears. So can we address that?
Sure. You know, this is a really good time to do that too. So first and foremost, let me assure you that yes, you can print inkjet technology onto coated stocks without smearing. Let me just put the stake in the ground. Yes, you can. So now you want to know specific technologies, and I want to be really respectful here because at HP we can help you do this. We have customers who do this today. And there are a lot of different techniques that we walk our customers through in order to help them do it. I am absolutely confident that if you talk to any of the other regular vendors in this inkjet space, that they have people on their staff who would be able to help you get to your goal of coated paper, high-speed inkjet, no smudging. Now, let me give you a couple minutes on the recommendations that we give. So there are a bunch of coated stocks in the marketplace. And we're going to talk about paper here in a couple of minutes, and we'll kind of revisit the coated, uncoated, treated. You know, there are a lot of different terms and a lot of different styles of paper that you can buy for your inkjet wet press. Sometimes the variations are by country. We work with different papers here in Europe than we work with in the U.S. or in Asia or in South America. But as a rule, you can find coated and uncoated stocks, treated and untreated stocks pretty much anywhere in the world. Now, how do you get to the point where you print without smearing and you don't have a problem? That's a balancing act. And the balancing act comes down to the art of putting as little ink on the page as you possibly can, but still getting the desired color pop and image quality that you desire. and a really dedicated testing of the drying scheme that you're using for that paper. So one of the tricks about putting ink on paper is you're effectively putting, let's be honest, you're putting water on paper. And different papers absorb water at different rates. And when we start looking at the variety of inkjet inks in the marketplace, they get absorbed by the paper or they sit on top of the paper depending on the nature of the paper. If you're looking at a coated stock, you're typically looking at a paper that the ink wants to sit on top of. And if I go back maybe 5 or 10 years in my inkjet experience, when the water sits on top of the coated stock, it doesn't want to dry, and then you start to get transfer, or you might get smudging after finishing or even during finishing. And that was a common problem, I would say, years ago. But today, in fact, even just this week where I've been here in Switzerland, we have printed a very high coverage job on a coated stock. We printed it at a relatively high speed, and we balanced our color profile, which determined how much ink we put on paper, and we balanced our dryers to make sure that we didn't over-dry the paper, under-dry the paper, still got the ink dry, and when it came off on the rewinder on the back end, we were sitting there running our fingers while the rewinder was going, and we got nothing off on our fingers. So it can be done.
Okay, and Frank Naka would like to know, what about UV inks?
Hey, Frank, how you doing? So UV inks, I think we're going to start to see more and more of. This isn't something that HP does right now, but I think you will. There are already companies in the marketplace that are working with some UV inks, and I think over time you're going to start to see more and more UV cured inks in the marketplace. UV inks have a lot of different uses in the market. We often see them in security applications for watermarking. And UV fluorescence, you know, either the red or the green or the blue fluorescing inks we often see in election applications, security printing of a variety of different styles, and even label printing for security detection. So it's definitely something that we don't do in our high-speed wet presses right now. Other vendors are working with it. I think we'll probably, you know, we're certainly keeping our eye on it. The other option that you have with UV inks is that it's also possible to use them with individual inkjet print heads. We've been talking about the wet presses, but a very common thing to do is to buy an individual print module and mount it in the print line and add additional capabilities to the CYMK you might be printing right now. Many companies around the world mount these individual print heads after the main printing but before their finishing line to add things like UV inks, to add things like neon inks and other types of additional post-printing finishing to add some differentiation to the print products they produce.
Okay, so Frank says hi back and Happy New Year, and I think we're ready to switch to the next slide. It says inkjet printing, what and why?
Right, and I think what I'm trying to emphasize here is why you should be looking seriously at an inkjet solution no matter where you are in the supply chain between idea and putting an idea on paper. It's not your father's inkjet anymore. When I first started looking at inkjet wet presses, a long time ago, more than a decade, these were presses that we used to think of as being suitable for not much more than bills and statements, you know, the things that show up in our mailbox that we immediately throw away or we stick in a file box. This was not really intended for high quality printing. It was really transactional printing. And maybe some, you know, technical manuals, maybe some limited applications for book printing, but we didn't really, we didn't look at it for high graphic content. But what's happened over the last, especially 5, 6, 7 years, is that Inkjet has really grown up. It has become more robust. The print engines, the paper transports, they're robust, they're long-lived. You can make an investment in one today and be reasonably certain that that investment is going to be working for you even 4, 5, 6 years down the road. We have customers who've had our machines for 7 years, and they're still they tell us that with the upgrades they put on them, they feel like they're still brand new. And I think that you would find a number of vendors who'd be happy to try and tell you that story. So it's not your father's inkjet. It's not dot matrix. It's not 120 DPI. Regularly, when you talk to Inkjet web press vendors, we're going to be talking to you about 600 DPI and 1200 DPI print applications. We're going to be talking to you about machines that will run just hyper fast. They will run roll-to-roll or roll-to-inline finishing. They are perfectly appropriate today for all sorts of things. And the pictures that I put in here are actually live print jobs that are being printed around the world. The top right is from a company in New Jersey that does what we call outserts. They sit on the on top of a subscribed magazine, but inside the poly bag. This gives the advertiser an opportunity to have a more personal conversation with the person receiving the magazine. So one example of how this was used is that Harper's Bazaar, they did an agreement with Neiman Marcus. They compared the subscription list of Harper's Bazaar with the credit card holders of Neiman Marcus, and where they found an intersection where Harper's Bazaar people held a Neiman Marcus credit card, they got very special offers via this outsert, and these were printed on an Inkjet web press in New Jersey, inserted in the poly bag as part of the fulfillment, and off they went. The Neiman Marcus people indicated that it was the most successful advertising they'd done because it was extremely relevant. It only went to people who were already inclined to shop at Neiman Marcus because they were credit card holders, and people who were very fashion forward. Obviously, if they're subscribing to Harper's Bazaar, they have a sense of trendiness about them. And so those are the kinds of intersections that we certainly like to look for, and the coverage there, as you can see, is quite high. The bottom left is well, it looks like a newspaper. And you know the story that if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it must be a duck. Well, in this case, it looks like a newspaper, it feels like a newspaper, and it's not a newspaper. It's actually a loyalty mailer from a retail store in Belgium. And in this case, it gets mailed out to the people who hold the loyalty cards for the jeans company. It's personalized with their name. The offers that are made, the images that are used in the paper are all based on their buying profile. So if you see the picture, the big picture on the front page advertises the brand of jeans they buy the most. And the little picture that's just a little bit to the left of it, that's a little bit smaller, that's for the brand of jeans that's next most expensive. And at no point on the front page does it say, hey, we'd like you to buy these jeans. They just put the ads there, and it's been an incredibly effective campaign. So that's done on newsprint with pretty high coverage. And it's an 8 or 12-page edition that they do, and it's a pretty amazing piece. Right next to it is a piece that's actually done for an insurance company, and you might have guessed by seeing all the names on the front that they are personalized and individualized. It's done for an insurance company, also in Belgium, and I picked all my Belgian ones because again, I want to be respectful to people who are doing really great work, but I don't want to step on anybody's intellectual property, and everything that you see on this slide has already been shown in public, so it doesn't violate any confidentiality. The middle piece is for a company called Ethias Insurance, and if you go out to YouTube and you type in Ethias, it's E-T-H-I-A-S, insurance, and the company Symeta, it's S-Y-M-E-T-A, There are a bunch of videos about this campaign talking about not only how they put it together and the 600,000 variations of the magazine that they produce, but also the results of having converted to using a magazine to welcome their new insureds on board as opposed to just sending them an email. This is for the online product of the insurance company. And this is printed on a high-speed inkjet wet press. It's personalized, and it has amazingly high coverage. And it's done on a really nice stock. In this case, this is done on a Ziegler inkjet treated stock. They get brilliant color with it. It dries, it finishes, it goes into the mail, and you will not see a smudge anywhere, I promise you. That last one on the right is actually a holiday newspaper. It's for a travel company. And again, the thing that Inkjet lets you do is create this personal conversation, but still maintain brand color, the vibrance of the message, and keeping it unique. So we like talking about what's possible. Now, what I don't have on this image is posters, and you'll see that last bullet point there. We talk about posters and point-of-sale, magazines, catalogs. We have customers around the world who are printing all of these things. High coverage, medium coverage, high speed, on a variety of different paper substrates. So if you can dream it, you can probably print it on a high-speed inkjet. Deb?
I have a lot of questions for you.
Okey-dokey.
And let's try to get through them because I know there's 15 minutes left because we have some technical difficulties. Okay, Gia, some of your questions were answered in regard to Pantone. It's a CMYK conversion. Is that correct, Pat?
So in the case of certainly our technology, it is a CYMK conversion. But I will tell you that I know that Inkjet has hit colors as difficult as T-Mobile or Deutsche Telekom pink. It's hit ING tangerine. I don't know what else to call that color. In the U.S., Home Depot orange, the many blues, the many reds that are out there. The trick is to test and find the right recipe and not assume that the Pantone book is right.
Okay. And this is from Gia again. She has like a three-part question here. They're book printers. And sometimes for short runs, she's asking if Inkjet would be suitable for covers. And in that, Pat, the second part of that, and the third part is, will there be any cracking when the cover is folded around the book? And the third part is, are there any laminating or UV drip-offs, etc.? And then I'll get to the rest of the questions.
Okay, so if you look at that middle picture, that ECS magazine, that's a self-cover. So we have customers who manage the covers thing two different ways. In this case, the ECS magazine, they did a self-cover. But very often our customers choose to use another technology to create their covers. Sometimes it's an offset technology, and sometimes they use our Indigo technology in the case of HP. Certainly there are other companies that make perfectly viable digital presses that are, toner, liquid toner based to create book covers. And very often the decision is made to do that because there are many book making lines, book workflows that allow you to incorporate high-speed inkjet book blocks with sheets of covers from other technologies. So we see that more often than we see anything else. And to answer the question about cracking and the folding, when we use these technologies, no, we don't see cracking at all. We haven't seen any issues. If you're going to be at Hunkler Innovation Days, come on by the booth because we'll show you just stacks and stacks and stacks of books that we've produced for the show with Hunkler using our Indigo for the book covers and our wet press for the book blocks. What we typically find is that our customers, if they want lamination of the book covers, they handle that all as a process ahead of time and load that into the book finishing system. And we've not heard any of our customers complain about drip-offs or scratching or burnishing or any of the other things that we know can happen.
Thank you. Frank Toll is asking specifically, as long as we're talking about book printing, why aren't books on this list?
So, you know what? Because I forgot to put them on the list. That's the only reason. We have customers around the world who print just millions of books every month. We have one customer, you may have heard of CPI out of France. They are a huge book printer for Pearson. They print millions of books. They've got lots of our presses, and we have a lot of presses around the world printing books every day.
Okay. I have a statement/question from Roger Buck. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
He writes, we have some traditional flexo presses for label printing and have heard about adding color inkjet heads to replace the water-based towers to give high-color digital solutions using the flexo press as a substrate transport. Woo! Geeking out there. Is this being done successfully now?
So, Roger, I don't know of anyone specifically doing it for labels, although I have heard rumors that people have done it. My experience with print modules, the individual inkjet print heads from several manufacturers over the past 10 years, is that you can do amazing things with them. And every time I think you can't do something with them, somebody shows me someone who has done it. So my take on it is that if you have a flexo press, you should have a long chat with the manufacturer of that flexo press, and if they don't have a partnership today with someone who can provide inkjet modules, or at least talk you through what the requirements are, give me a jingle, tweet me, get a hold of Deb, drop me a note, and we'll marry you to somebody who can have that conversation with you and give you some reasonable alternatives.
Okay, Bram, I will get to your question because it's more a general question at the end of the webinar. Vicki Robbie is asking if you can once again give the name of the, was it Ethias? What's the name of the insurance company?
It's ETHIAS, and maybe, Deb, you want to type it into that chat window where everybody can see it. ETHIAS.
AS.
Yeah, and they are a Belgian insurance retailer, and they also sell online. And this magazine very specifically had to do with a problem where people were buying the insurance online, but they weren't renewing. So they wanted to create a closer relationship, and hence the Ethias magazine was born. And that's correct.
Okay. And Gia, I will have Pat get in touch with you regarding this other question. And we will, Chris Price, I will get to your question as well, but I'd like to get through the slides. Next thing, color.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about this already, and because we are running out of time, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but here's what I want to say. If you've got a Pantone color, you've got that Coca-Cola red, the Red Cross red, Pitney Bowes blue, whatever color you have, very often brand guidelines are based on Pantone colors. And very rarely will an inkjet wet press today allow you to load an inkjet Pantone certified ink to it. What we typically recommend today is that you take, you start with the recipe out of the book for your Pantone color, your CYMK recipe, much the same as you did when you built your website with your HTML recipe, and you test it. And know this, that printing the recipe requires testing, because on any given paper, on any given press, you may find that you will want to adjust the recipe to give you the color that you want that meets your guidelines. My favorite thing to do with Pantone colors is to ask everybody for the brand to put their business cards on the table and compare them very carefully, and you discover very quickly that nobody's brand color matches. They've all been printed at different times on different papers, and it changes. And Inkjet's no different, you know. But once you get it, once you get that recipe and once you get it set and you know what your paper is, you can get your Pantone color. You can get a color that will be perfect. So then next, metallics. We're not currently printing metallics with our high-speed web presses. We know of companies that make metallic inks. We know of companies that make neon inks, and we know of companies that make white inks for high-speed inkjet. We don't currently support them, but the fact that there are inks out there sort of leads you to believe that down the road you might be seeing more of that. You will want to make sure that you get a little bit of education about color management for inkjet. It is different. It's not exactly the same as the color management that you do, and what I mean by not the same is, especially if you're used to working in offset, it's second nature to know how to do your Photoshop and your other color management for the work that you do. And there's a new set of skills that you learn around Inkjet. Again, our goal is to get as little ink on the paper as possible and still get vibrant color. And that's a little bit of learning that has to go on there. And it's the same with color matching. Know what color you're trying to hit, we can probably get you there. That's our world of color. That piece on the right is actually a high fashion magazine that is printed on a high-speed inkjet web press.
Cool. Next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, it says paper on the top.
Yeah, I promised that we'd come back to paper, and the question earlier was about coded media, and frankly, coded media, uncoded media, inkjet media, offset media. Look, there's a huge amount of variety. I actually have a customer printing on PVC at the moment. Just really entertaining. So what I would say to you is that, yes, you can. You can absolutely print on anything that you want to print on, and you can absolutely print on, all these media, but what I'm also going to say is that you have to test. Whatever it is that's in your heart's desire, there is a paper vendor out there who will make your dreams come true. There are certain companies in our in our world who really know inkjet really, really well and produce amazing papers that are compatible with high-speed inkjet presses. The folks from Ziegler, the folks from Crown and Yelder, the folks from Appleton, the folks from Saki, the folks from Mundy, the folks from International Paper, Deb, I know I'm missing Georgia Pacific. There's just so many companies out there that produce amazing papers. So if you have a paper you love, the next question you should be asking is, how do I print on that paper, not can I print on that paper, because there is inevitably a way for you to get there. Okie doke?
Cool.
Next.
Durability. And I just want to remind you, there's 3 minutes left, so we might want to start tearing through. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, but in case people have to go somewhere, just letting you know.
Right. So all I wanted to say about durability is what's on the slide. One of the things we have many customers do today is that they print and they post coat, and they do that because they want a little more glossiness or they want a specific matte sheen. Sometimes they do it for durability and mailability, because while we can print it and it will be rock solid when it comes out of our machine, and it will even go through the folders and inserters really well, sometimes they want to do other things. They might want to add die cutting, they might want to add some fancy folding, and sometimes they want to post coat it in order to give it a little bit more heft than what the natural paper does. So don't feel constrained. Anything you think you want to do, anything you have ever done with offset, there is no reason to think you cannot do this with inkjet. That middle piece that says Bryce Desner, Nico Mulley, and Sifkin Stevens, that's actually a poster from the Sydney Opera House that was printed on a high-speed web press. The Print Shift magazine is a blurb magazine, if you're familiar with blurb.com. and bless their hearts, they print the block of that magazine on Inkjet, and then they print the cover on Indigo, and it's just incredibly robust and durable to go through the mail stream. The other piece is everything that you're seeing there has been printed with the eye towards durability and fitness for purpose. So my take on this is be fearless, be brave. Anything you can think of, you can probably do with Inkjet. You just have to talk to the right people to get you on the right path. Okie dokie.
Okay.
You've got a couple minutes there, Deb.
Okay, fitness for you?
Yeah, it's all these things. Whatever you want to do, from mundane to magnificent, you can get there. You just have to talk to the right people, as I said.
Okay, flip the slide.
You betcha.
Come back next time for
all of this stuff, because we're going to be talking about the people who created these applications, why they created them, and how they created them. From the top right of Venti newspapers to the outserts to the various types of books. It's some Japanese text down there in the bottom right, education text in the middle, and marketing collateral. We're going to talk about a bunch of them, and we're going to talk about the workflows, the decisions they made, and the success that they're bringing to their businesses.
Right. We're going to have the actual printers on the webinar talking to everybody.
To the extent that we can. We are still working on getting the actual printers, but we will definitely have the actual talk tracks.
Awesome. Okay. Let me just see. Is there another slide? No. Yay.
No.
Okay.
Yes,
there's some information where you can register for the next webinar. I'm sorry about the format issue. Now let me just quickly go back to some of these questions that I saved for the end. Some of these are general questions, Pat, so answer how you want. Bram wants to know, is the growth of e-commerce and use of digital media impeding the anticipated growth of digital printing?
I don't think so. I think we thought that was going to happen. I think that there was a lot of fear in the industry that email was going to eliminate marketing, mailing, direct mail. I think there was a concern that e-bills were going to eliminate billing and statementing and the marketing that goes along with that, and that somehow posters and other types of marketing signage was going to go away because things would just magically appear on your phone. The reality is that the best campaigns are multi-channel, and print is always a component of a good multi-channel campaign. So I don't think that, I think if anything, that what you're going to find if you look at the numbers is that e-commerce is actually driving more print.
Okay, and Dana, who is a man, not a woman, sorry Dana.
Howie.
Yes. What would you say are the range of volumes throughout, well, there's this typo there, I think it's supposed to be throughout thorough capabilities of inkjet printers out there. I'm not sure what that other word's supposed to be. Through, Pat.
So, Dana, I think what you're asking is what's the range of volumes that makes sense for inkjet? And,
yeah, that's what that, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and the truth is that I'd be lying if I said that there was a right answer to that, because we have customers who do extremely short run, but they gang it together in bigger jobs in order to create jobs that make sense for them to run and keep their press running. And then we have other customers who specialize in extremely mega long runs where a single job might run for multiple days. This a customer I was working with here in Switzerland last week, they have a job that they do every 2 weeks that runs for several days from the time they push the go button to the time the last piece goes out into the mail stream. So I think that in the end it comes down to the style of business that the print provider wants to operate, and the kinds of jobs that they want to go after, because they could go after flyers and posters and very low volume professional services runs and gang them together with medium runs and still find a way to make money.
Ralph Suarez would like to know what would be some reasons to switch to this technology over offset or digital press?
The ability to segment, the ability to customize, and the ability to personalize and to offer those services to your current client set. You know, if you're doing static work, you're competing on price. And at some point, everybody's, you know, competing with the exact same price of ink, price of paper, and whatever their sunk cost in their machinery is. When you start looking at high-speed digital, it gives you the option of competing on value-added services.
Okay, Tom Kenny would like to know, how does the cost of consumables compare to traditional offset printing?
You will find that digital consumables in the form of ink will probably feel a little bit higher than what you pay for analog inks. You will probably find that the paper, we used to say that the paper was higher, and anymore I have so many customers who print on offset stock, because very often the people that we work with have both offset and high-speed inkjet capabilities in the same building. So they just buy in bulk and use the same paper no matter what. The paper isn't as much of an issue anymore. So I think what you typically have to look at is the overall cost of the job and what you can sell it for. Expect, though, that when you move to digital and you're looking, the value proposition of digital, of course, is the ability to segment and customize. So if all you're ever going to do is long static jobs, then there's probably not a value proposition for you.
Okay, Gia's asking again about Pantone colors, but I'm going to put you in touch with him directly so that you guys can take a deeper dive into that.
You bet.
And this weird person named Mary Schilling, I don't know if you know, have ever heard of her.
Oh my God, Inkjet Genie.
Yes, she has a question for you. Well, not really a question, more of a statement. Can you talk a bit about the emergence of sheet-fed inkjet devices for B3 and B2 size sheets and positioning of those devices?
So look, the value proposition of inkjet in general is that it gives you the opportunity to print in customized, segmented, and personalized ways. The opportunity of sheet-fed presses is the ability to produce those traditional formats, but using the inkjet ability to produce variable content. I think that over time we're going to start to see that the sheet-fed inkjet market is going to continue to grow. You know, there are inkjet presses already in the market, sheet-fed inkjet presses already in the market. You tend to see them more in Asia than you do here. And typically the applications that they tout for them are exactly what you'd expect them to be. They're the large format graphic art type work, not so much signature work, generally more big graphic arts work, poster type work, and I think we're going to see that slowly evolve. You know, when we went to Drupa back in 2012, they called it the Inkjet Drupa, and I've already heard a couple people say that 2016 is going to be the Inkjet Drupa, but now it's going to be a whole lot more kinds of inkjet, and it won't surprise me if sheet-fed's part of that story.
Okay, I have a follow-up, and by the way, it's actually Elizabeth Gooding hijacked Mary Schilling's account, so it's Elizabeth.
Ah, hi, Gooding.
So even we have a even stealthier stealth person here. There's a follow-up. Elizabeth would like to ask, what is the density differences in solid processing using BA to non-BA, whatever that might mean?
So I think, honestly, we're not going to answer that question here. I think you're good. So baseline, first we have to explain what the question is really asking. And if I understand what she's asking what the optical density difference is.
And that was actually Mary asking, so they're driving us just crazy. So let's
that's okay. With bonding agent, HP uses a technique called bonding agent that rides underneath the ink for certain types of paper to allow us to drive a more optically rich color. or an optically rich black, and the question is, what are the OD density differences between running with bonding agent and without bonding agent? And honestly, you'd have to talk to one of our engineers and have them walk you through it. I can't do that one off the top of my head.
Okay, and last question, and I do appreciate everyone who's still hanging in there. This is from some guy named Chris Price. I think he runs a trade show. I'm not really sure.
Heard of him.
Yeah, I think the Printerverse is there every year. Something.
Yeah.
He would like to know, and this is feel free to answer this, Pat. He would like to know if HP will be introducing any new inkjet printer product or technologies at Graph Expo this September.
I think we're just going to have to stand by.
Oh, I like that. You're like Bravo.
Yeah.
Last question from either Mary or Elizabeth. They're just trying to freak us out. What is the lowest GSM of paper for use with the 200, 300, and 400? I don't even know what they're talking about anymore.
I'm sure those, so they're actually referencing the series of HP printers that we sell, the HP high-speed inkjet web presses we sell. The T2 series is our 20-inch model, and then, 30, 40-inch, we get wider. We have 3 different paper transport platforms that we support. And what was the question again?
What is the lowest GSM of paper for use?
Oh, lowest GSM. All right, so God, so you're switching me up. So GSM. So I spent a lot of last week printing on 70. I know we can go lighter. I just, the specs are on the web page, and I'd invite you to go to hp.com, go inkjet web press. And all the specs are out there as to high and low. But yeah, we were comfortably printing 70 last week.
Okay, that's all of the questions. Everybody who's still on the webinar, thank you so much. Sorry for the technical glitches in the beginning. Pat, as always, you are a wealth of information. And Chris wants to know, Chris Price also is asking if you're wearing your Girls Who Print crown while you're presenting.
So Chris, I'm in Switzerland, and honestly, putting the crown into the suitcase, it just gets you stopped by TSA. So I did not bring it to Switzerland with me. It is comfortably in my office at home. Anyone following me on Facebook knows that I've spent the entire Christmas holiday renovating my office, and she has been sitting there watching over the entire thing. The Gurley Award wearing the tiara.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everybody, and please join us on February 12th for the next part of this. I guess it's a series, right, Pat? It's pretty much a series.
Yeah, let's call it a series.
Yeah, we're going to ramp. We're going to keep moving forward. So we did a little introduction to Inkjet. Next time, we're going to hear from or about printers that are using the technology, and then we're going to take it from there. And next time especially, we're going to look forward to all of your questions. You can ask people directly who are using the technology, and it should be pretty awesome. Again, thank you, everybody. How am I going to get everyone the PDF? I'll figure out a way. Oh, I know who's on the webinar. Everyone who's on the webinar, I can send you the PDF.
There you go.
Okay. Let me just see. Yep, that's it. That's everybody. Thanks again, Chad. You can end the recording. Make sure you, if you're in Switzerland, when is Hunkler? The end of February, right?
Yep, February 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th. Hunkler Innovation Days. If you're going to come, don't forget to register. It's innovationdays.com.
And right after that is D-Scoop. And then we have Explore. Plenty of chances